Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alright, so today I'm going to be smoking and reviewing the Camel Yellow cigarettes from Brazil, which are Camel's standard full-flavored cigarette offering across the entire world, including in Brazil, except for in the United States. Now, I'll acknowledge I don't know a lot about the history of Camel as a brand within Brazil. I don't know when Camel as a brand was first introduced into the Brazilian market, and I don't know any of the nitty-gritty details by any means, I will acknowledge. There is a lot of conflicting information out there, and there's also a lot of information without any listed sources, and so as such I will not be talking about the history of Camel as a brand within Brazil today, but what I do know is that today Camel as a brand is produced within Brazil in Santa Cruz do Sul by Japan Tobacco International. And since this pack of cigarettes right here was actually produced within Brazil, I am hoping that it provides me with a little bit of a different experience from Camel Yellows that I've tried from elsewhere around the world. How will they be? What will they be like? Will I enjoy them? I don't know, but I'm very excited to find out. But there's only one way to find out now, isn't there? And that is to first off go over the packaging of, well, this pack right here. After that, I'm going to go ahead and get the cellophane all off. I'm going to get the pack all opened up, and we're going to take a look at the cigarettes inside, see what they look like, see what they smell like, see what the quality of them is like, and see what the blend looks like as well. Then after that, of course, it'll be time to go ahead and get one of these all lit up, get to smoking a Camel Yellow cigarette from Brazil for the very first time. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on these cigarettes and give them a rating as well. But first off, before anything, before we even start covering the packaging of the Camel Yellows, I first off need to thank the sponsor of today's video, me. My new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, is out now. The poems within this book are not good poems, but they are poems to read while smoking cigarettes. And if you are interested in reading my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, it's available now on Amazon for $14.99 USD. And of course, I do highly recommend checking it out if y'all are interested. Links in the description and comments down below. Now, with the sponsored segment of today's video all done, without further ado, let's go ahead and, as said, start covering the packaging of, well, this pack of cigarettes right here, the Camel Yellows from Brazil. And we can see this is a pretty standard hard pack of cigarettes. However, it is a round corner box, as we can see. This is not a hard corner box or a soft corner box. This is very much a round corner box, as we can see those rounded edges just right there. As far as the design goes, this looks a lot like Camel Yellows from elsewhere around the world, but of course the biggest difference is the unique warning label to Brazil on the bottom of the pack right here. We can see a little bit of red right there, a little bit of yellow right there, and some white down here, all with text on it, and that all has to do with the government mandated warning labels on cigarettes here. What does it say? Well, let's go ahead and read it. It just says, warning, this product causes addiction. And then under that, it just says, I believe at least, this product or smoking is dangerous, I believe is what it says on the second line. And then under that, we get a little bit of a QR code right here that links you to a quit smoking page from Brazil. It just says, yeah, if you want to quit, you can go to that page and everything like that. From what I can tell right there, there's also a little bit of a phone number and some little designs and whatnot. Basically, this is a, well, no, I was about to say large warning label trying to get you to quit cigarettes, but it only takes up about 25% of the pack, so it's definitely not as big as it could be. Thankfully, I will acknowledge. But yeah, that's the warning label on this pack right here. Moving up above it, we can see the actual design for these cigarettes. Overall, design-wise, we've got a very nice yellowish beige background that I think looks really good, but there is some color change going on. We can see around the edges, it really is a very distinct yellow beige in my personal opinion. However, in the center right here, it does get a little bit more white, to a little bit more of an off-white, I would say, which definitely draws your attention to the center of the pack, and that, due to the fact that the Camel logo and design itself is in the center, draws your attention to, well, the name brand of these cigarettes right here, Camel, of course. And there's actually some other designs that don't really show up very well on camera on the front of the pack as well that I do want to go ahead and cover before I go over the Camel branding and the text up here and down here and everything like that. And that interesting sort of design, it's hard to describe, but there are lines all over the front of the packaging. And I don't know if y'all can see them very well there. I think you guys can see them just a little bit, but we can see those lines right here. We can see them down here just a little bit as well. And they kind of wrap around the design down here, making a circle around the camel design. But up here, they actually form some letters, and those letters spell out camel, which I do find to be pretty interesting. Now, that's a design choice that I've seen from other packs of camels around the world, I will acknowledge, so it's not something that is unique to Brazil, but it is very interesting to see nonetheless, and it's a design choice that I personally really like, because from a distance, you're never going to notice that there are a bunch of squiggly lines that spell camel on the front of this pack, but when you really start to pay attention to the pack, when you have it close to your face, if you're just looking at the pack while you're smoking, you notice that and you're like, wow, I didn't notice that before. I think that's a really cool thing. I really like packaging that looks really good at a glance, but then when you really take a look at it, you just notice more and more and more and more and more, and that's something we definitely do have going on with this packaging just a little bit, I will acknowledge. Let's go ahead and now move on to the nitty-gritty details of the foreground of the packaging, though, in a brown color up here, curved just a little bit. It just says since 1913. Of course, that's the year that Camel as a brand was founded in the United States. Right below that on a curved text as well, once again in brown, it just says international blend right there. And of course, the Camel Yellows are very much, as said at the beginning of this video, well, they're Camel's standard full-flavored cigarettes across the entire world, except within the United States, where Camel is not owned by Japan Tobacco International / Japan Tobacco and is instead owned by R.J. Reynolds, which is a subsidiary of British American Tobacco. So of course, Camel Yellows are not marketed within the United States because Japan Tobacco doesn't own the brand there. So it's an international blend in that it's sold everywhere but the United States, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. I don't know really where I was going with that, but y'all know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm saying. But you know, it just says since 1913, international blend right there, just letting us know exactly what these are and some of the history of Camel as a brand. Then under that, we get the actual Camel brand name itself right here in a silver text with a brown sort of border going around all of the silver, and the silver itself is a little bit metallic. I wouldn't describe it as being shiny, but it is a little bit metallic, I will acknowledge, and that is all embossed as well. Now, one thing I like is that the Camel logo itself is actually curved. Now, that's something I've seen many times on different packs of Camels from around the world before, but I also really like the fact that this is curved as well. I really like that the curves match. That's something I really like to see, and so that is something that is much appreciated. But yes, just says Camel right here in a silver and brown. And then under that Camel sort of text right here, which is all embossed, we can see a camel itself right here as well. It's just got one hump, not two. Of course, that's the classic Camel. And this design right here is made up of, I would have to say, a light and dark brown. And right next to the Camel right here, which is very much a simplified Camel, I would say, we can see some simplified background details, some pyramids over here, some palm trees over here. We can see the details that you see in old style Camel packs, but very simplified for the market as it is today. And this Camel design itself right here, along with, I was about to say along with the details on either side, but these are not actually embossed, but the Camel itself is embossed, which is something that I do appreciate, and this is something I've said before about packs of Camel Yellows and international packs of Camels in general, but I really do like how the Camel head itself is part of the A right there. I just think that's a nice little feature, a nice little tidbit of the packaging. Moving on below all of this, though, right here we can see in brown it just says yellow right there, and that's all there really is to the front of the packaging. Nothing else going on, not a particularly complex front of the packaging by any means, not super simple either. There's definitely a little bit more going on with this packaging than really you might expect at a quick glance. However, it is definitely more simple than not. Not super complex by any means, and it's overall a very clean, classic, good look, and it is very much the standard look for Camel Yellows from around the world, with some minor changes, I would say. For example, I've never seen International Blend actually be printed on the front of a pack of Camel Yellows. I've seen since 1913 Original Blend, I've seen Camel Yellow right there, I've seen this design multiple times, but actually seeing it say International Blend, that is not something I have actually seen before. So that is definitely something that is a little bit possibly unique to the Brazilian market, or maybe this is just a new standard piece of packaging. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that's the front of the pack right there. Overall solid look. Let's go and move on to this side. We can see warning label right here. It just says toxic product right there. Do not sell to individuals under the age of 18. Just says this product contains nicotine, which has toxic substances in it and can cause cancer. That's pretty much all that's going on with this side right here. Moving on to the back, we get a little bit of a gory image on the back of the packaging. Apologies for the jump scare, y'all, but yeah, there's a little bit of gore right here, just saying that smoking can cause gangrene. I had never heard that before I started seeing that on the front of like packs of cigarettes and stuff like that kind of thing. I had never heard that cigarettes and smoking can cause gangrene. I thought gangrene was more like a trench foot or something like that kind of thing, where you got wet socks and wet boots and you're wearing them for days, if not weeks on end. That's when your feet just kind of fall off kind of thing. I thought gangrene was that sort of stuff. I got no idea though, but this is pretty gruesome. I don't want that happening to me, but it ain't gonna stop me from smoking. This warning ain't stopping me from smoking, I will acknowledge. And I'm gonna hope that my feet don't be looking like that, because I think it would be kind of hard to walk, and I like walking. I like going for walks and smoking cigarettes. But yep, just says toxic product, causes gangrene, stuff like that. We get the gruesome image right there, and that's really all that's going on the back of the packaging. Moving on to this side right here, we can see the design sadly doesn't really stretch around the packaging by any means kind of thing. It would be really nice if it did, like the little lines right here kind of stretch over just a little bit, but once you reach this portion, it just becomes just a flat sort of beige yellow, I will acknowledge. We can see the barcode right there. We can see above that the ingredients that are in the cigarettes within this pack right here. Just says tobacco adhesives, says combustion agents, I think maybe some minor additives, some cigarette paper, and some humectants as well. And then above that, and this text is in brown, but above that we just get the Brazilian tax stamp right there, as we can see. And yeah, that's really all that's going on this side of the packaging. Let's go and move on to the top of the packaging. We can see just basically a miniature design of what we saw on the front, I will acknowledge. Sadly, it does not appear that the design really wraps around any super real degree. I'm just trying to get a good idea. No, it really doesn't. The design does not wrap around to the top of the packaging, which is kind of a shame, because they could have totally done that, but we can see the white in the middle right there, and it just doesn't line up there. A little bit of a shame, but it is what it is, I will acknowledge. Just says Camel right there though, all embossed once again. A little bit maybe miniaturized when compared to the one on the front, and once again we see lines on the background. Just spells out Camel once again in those lines. Don't know if they're really popping up on camera, but they are indeed there, and that's what's going on with the top of this pack. And with the bottom of this pack, we can see there are those lines spelling out Camel once again. We get a camel right here instead of it spelling out Camel like it did on the top of the packaging, and instead it just says yellow right there. And we get some more information to either side. Right here, it just has some information about Japan Tobacco International. It just says Japan Tobacco International Brazil, has a phone number, just says Industria or Industry Brasileira, or Brazil area, to say that correctly. Then under that, or not under that, but to the side of that, it just says Santa Cruz do Sul /RS, and then they have, yep, a phone number, and then on the other side it just says JTI right there, and their standard logo. Under that just says 20 cigaros, and then we get the production date and the best buy date right there as well. This pack of cigarettes was made on the 5th of March 2026, from what I can tell, and it expires on probably the 9th of March 2027. Oh no, 09/27. So I'm just trying to remember, like, this always gets me mixed up, I'll acknowledge, because the United States does month, day, year, and then everywhere else does day, month, year, which does make more sense, but I'm so used to seeing month, day, year that I kind of get mixed up whenever I am somewhere else and I see the date written down. I'm like, wait a minute, which is it? Is it month, day, year, or day, month, year? No, this is definitely day, month, year. So yeah, 5th of March 2026 was when this pack was made, probably, and it probably expires on the 9th month of 2027, which we've got January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So it expires in September of 2027. So yeah, you stay fresh for just a little bit. And yep, that's pretty much all there is to the packaging as a whole. Do suppose, without further ado, should probably go ahead and, well, get the cellophane all off of this packaging, and I should probably go ahead and, take a look what the quality of the packaging is actually like. So let's go ahead and do exactly that if I possibly can. Boom, 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 there we go, easy peasy. Packaging, or not the packaging, but the cellophane was very easy to get off, thankfully. No complaints on my behalf. And overall quality of this packaging is, it's all right. I mean, like, it's a round quarter box. I mean, like, look at that. It's not great kind of thing. This is average quality for a round quarter box, kind of below average when compared to, like, your standard hard corner hard pack, in my personal opinion. But that's just kind of how round corner packs be. I'll acknowledge they tend to be a little bit lower quality, in my personal opinion. And this one is the same. Overall, texture-wise, it has a sort of matte finish to it, in my personal opinion. Very smooth, matte, satisfying under the hand finish. And overall, does this pack look better without the cellophane on or on? I would have to say it looks better without the cellophane on, of course, as like 100% of all cigarettes do. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get this pack all opened up. And let's go and take a look at the inside of it. And we can see we get a little bit of a number on the inside right there in brown. And we get a little bit of a silver cigarette insert with just a little bit hole right here. It doesn't go all the way across, it just kind of goes down right there, across, down, across, up. So we just got a little tiny hole right there, which is very interesting. And interestingly enough, I've never seen this sort of cigarette paper in a pack of Camels before. Maybe this is new, or maybe this is unique to Brazil. I'm not exactly sure. But this cigarette paper is, well, just that. It's a white cigarette paper, and pressed into it, rather than printed on it, but pressed into it, it just says recycle, 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 recycle over and over and over again, as we can see right there. That is pretty neat, if I do say so myself, and you know, I respect it. I like recycling kind of thing. I think recycling and reusing and everything like that is good, of course. So yeah, no, can't complain about that, can't complain about that. Let's go ahead, get that out, pulled out pretty easily, pretty satisfyingly, no complaints on my behalf. Go and put that in my backpack, can't be littering, of course. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get my first ever Camel Yellow cigarette from Brazil out of the pack. Give it a little bit of a look, give it a little bit of a look, give it a little bit of a smell, take a look at the quality of it, everything like that kind of thing. And let's see if I can get one of these out. Just like that. And I think first off, I'm gonna go ahead and smell it real quick. So smell-wise, I would have to say right off the bat, I'm getting a sweet, more so than not chocolatey scent. I have been getting more chocolatey scents than not from a lot of the cigarettes here in Brazil, and that is what I'm very much getting from this cigarette as well. Now, it is worth mentioning, in other areas of the world, these Camel Yellows do tend to have a little bit more of a chocolatey scent to them as well. But I will say that this scent might be a little bit more intense than elsewhere I have tried Camel Yellows from. Not like all that much more intense, but a little bit more intense nonetheless. Smells good though. I would have to say, yeah, it's kind of like a mix of milk and dark chocolate. It's just kind of chocolatey, a little bit of dark chocolate, a little bit of milk chocolate, a little bit of creamy sort of smell going on kind of thing. A little bit of a nuttiness going on in the smell as well. Overall, smells pretty good in my personal opinion. Let's go ahead and take a look at the look of this cigarette now. And we can see we get a cork style filter just right there, implying and letting us know, signifying, I guess is really the right way of putting it, that this is indeed a full flavored cigarette. And on that cork style filter, we get not like a bunch of like little light beige sort of dots and stuff like you might see on a lot of cigarettes from the United States, including Camels, but instead we get a bunch of lines going all the way down and around. And on the filter itself, where does it start? It starts right about there. We can see it actually spells out Camel in those lines. I don't know if it's really showing up very well on camera. It's so small, but yes, it does actually spell out Camel in the lines on the filter, which is pretty cool to see. And right below the cork style filter, we just get a little bit of a silver line right there. And then right below that, on a thicker white paper, we get the Camel sort of logo right there that we also saw on the front of the pack. And right above the silver line with the Camel logo on it right underneath, we get some camels kind of walking around the filter right there. One thing I think would be really cool, if Japan Tobacco really wanted to go like super crazy with their filter designs, that would be like a super cool thing to do, is they actually make each camel on the filter like take a step kind of thing. So it starts off with a normal camel, and then the next one has like a little bit of a step, and then there's another one that has like a little bit of a step, and then there's another one that has like a little bit of a step, and they're not like actually physically moving kind of thing. They're not moving forward. It just looks like they're taking a step. And so when you twirl the cigarette around, you get what looks like a camel moving or something like that. I think that would be really cool. I mean, like, that's basically how like the first motion picture worked, right? The first motion picture was just a horse running, and you just put it in something that spins, and you just spin it, and then you just see the horse running, and that's kind of how it works. That'd be really cool if they like did that with the cigarette, because they've already got the camels right there. All they have to do is make the camels walk, and then you could just do that and see the camels walk. I'm just saying. Japan Tobacco, I've got the ideas. If you'd like to buy that idea from me, hit me up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now that I've said it out loud, I don't think they're going to buy it from me. I think they're just going to take it. It's not like I have a copyright on that idea after all, but I think that's a pretty neat idea nonetheless. That would be honestly really cool to see on a cigarette filter. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the look of the upper part of the cigarette. The actual tobacco part of the cigarette is just normal white cigarette paper with a horizontal line going all the way across, all the way down kind of thing. Lots of them going on. That's really all that's going on with the look of this cigarette right here. Really nothing too crazy. This is a pretty similar look to what I've seen from other Camel Yellows around the world before. Blend-wise, I would have to say this is very much that of a medium blend. Maybe more of a medium to light blend. Let's get another one of these cigarettes out and take a look at what it looks like in comparison. If I can. I'm trying to get one of the other cigarettes out, and there we go. I would have to say, I mean, like, there's the comparison kind of thing. I would have to say a medium blend is about right, but definitely some cigarettes might look like they're more of a medium to light, but I would have to say more of a medium blend is about right for what this is. And yeah, overall quality-wise, perfectly fine. Not bad at all. Gotta admit, yeah, no, looks pretty good. There is one line of perforation on the filter as well. Some dots, there's not too many of them, and the dots are not super big either, so I don't know how big of an impact that's going to have on the smoking experience, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to go ahead and get to smoking. And let me tell y'all what, I am ready to get to smoking, because I want a little bit of nicotine. So let's go ahead and get to smoking, and let's go ahead and find out just how the Camel Yellow cigarettes from Brazil actually are for the very first time. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? Meh. They're okay. They're not more chocolatey than other Camel Yellows I've tried right off the bat. And they seem to be smoking mostly like other Camel Yellows I've tried right off the bat. I was thinking maybe, just maybe, due to the fact that these Camel Yellows are made in Brazil, that maybe they would be a little bit more of a unique Brazilian blend or something like that kind of thing. Something special for the Brazilian market, but that's not really the impression I'm getting. Seems to be, generally speaking, more so than not, pretty similar to what I've tried before, although with some minor differences. I think the chocolate might be slightly more pronounced. I think the quality is a little bit different when compared to Camel Yellows I've tried from elsewhere. A little bit of a better quality. And there's some other stuff as well that I'm sure I will mention over the next couple minutes I'm smoking, but right off the bat, more so than not, this is pretty similar to what I've tried before. I knew that was a possibility, and after all, it does say on the pack, international blend. Just let me know that this is not a blend unique to Brazil right off the bat kind of thing, so I'm not terribly surprised now, am I? The body itself is not the densest nor the biggest, but it is of relatively decent size, and it's about right for a full-flavored cigarette, but a full-flavored cigarette that is not like a super strong full-flavored cigarette. This is like a pretty standard medium-strength full-flavored cigarette from what I can tell right off the bat, I will acknowledge. Airflow-wise, I would say the airflow is perfectly fine. Draw-wise, due to the perforation, the draw does have a little bit of a satisfaction to it kind of thing. These are definitely satisfying to hit, as you need to draw in a little bit more than with some other cigarettes that might be a little bit too light of a hit. This has a nice, satisfying, I would have to say medium-heavy sort of draw to it, which is something that I do appreciate. I smoke American Spirits a lot in the United States, so a heavier draw is much more to my personal preference than not, I will acknowledge. And these, while they don't have the heaviest draw, do have a heavier draw than something like, let's say, the Marlboro Reds from Brazil for sure. And roughness and smoothness-wise, I would have to say this is like a solid 7 out of 10. And strength-wise, I would have to say this is probably a solid 7 out of 10 as well, although I can't say for certain, as I haven't finished this cigarette off yet. What's the actual flavor like, though? I know I described it as more of the same when I first lit the cigarette up. Do I still feel that way? I do, to an extent. I do think there are some minor changes. Of course, as with anything, when you switch factory, when you switch tobaccos you use to any decent degree at all, of course, the flavor of the blend is going to change to some degree. Any minor modification in the production process is going to result in a mildly different flavor of tobacco. There's no way to 100% maintain the exact same flavor from your tobacco, no matter what kind of thing. There are going to be minor changes due to not only regulatory things within whichever country cigarettes are sold in, but also just due to manufacturing processes as well. The only way you can get a 100% same tasting cigarette 100% of the time is by literally cloning and, well, not even that. I was about to say by literally cloning a tobacco plant, but no, I think you'd have to do more than that. You'd have to literally raise it in the exact same facility under, like, UV lights, because you can't even use the sun because that's not going to be consistent 100% of the time, and even then, any little fluctuation could result in a slightly different flavor. It really is quite impossible to create a cigarette with the same flavor every time. Every cigarette has a slightly different flavor just due to what's in it kind of thing, and I think that's something that could be said about a lot of stuff, I will acknowledge. That's something I could definitely go deep on, but I'm not going to do that today. My focus isn't philosophy today. My focus is cigarettes, so I'm going to focus on the cigarettes. These don't burn super quickly. They also don't burn super slowly. About at the same rate as Marlboro Reds from Brazil, in my personal opinion, which makes sense because those are, well, these main competitors. That's the main competitors of these, to say that correctly. And yeah, overall, not bad. Not bad. Pretty solid, in fact, I would say. Definitely better than Camel Yellows I've had from some other places around the world. I have had Camel Yellows that I personally found to be mid-quality before. These are definitely better than Camel Yellows I've had from some countries around the world previously. Just quality-wise, I will acknowledge the quality of them is quite good. I didn't notice any sort of an icky chemical taste. I didn't notice any sort of a off taste or sort of a noticeable icky sort of additive taste or anything like that. You can definitely tell in the flavor there are some added flavor for sure. The flavor is not entirely coming from the tobacco itself. There's definitely a little bit of, in my opinion, an added like Coca chocolate flavor, maybe a little bit of creaminess or something like that kind of thing. But you can definitely say these are more than likely a predominantly burley blend with a little bit of Oriental and possibly a little bit of Virginia tobacco as well. Of course, the Turkish blend, quote unquote, is exactly that. It's a little bit of burley, a little bit of Virginia, a little bit of Oriental tobacco, and Camel as a brand, that's kind of how they got their name with the Oriental tobacco blend. So something along those lines is about right, but these do very much taste like a pretty standard American blend cigarette, and they taste not all that dissimilar from other large, big tobacco produced cigarettes I've tried so far from Brazil, in that they do have a little bit of a chocolatey flavor. Now, one thing I do want to acknowledge is that the chocolatey flavor from these Camels, while in my opinion it is a slight bit more intense than Camel Yellows I've tried from elsewhere around the world, it's not as intense, in my opinion, as something like, let's say, the Rothmans Reds from Brazil or the Marlboro Reds from Brazil even. So I would have to say, out of the three cigarettes, the Rothmans Reds, the Marlboro Reds, and the Camel Yellows, I would have to say these have the least intense chocolatey flavor to them, but it is still very much there. It is still very much highly pronounced, and when I say it has less, I don't really mean it has that much less. It's just less kind of thing, I will acknowledge. But I think I want a second one to really determine what the flavor is like. I know I was just talking about the flavor, but I want to make sure what I was saying is actually accurate. So let's go ahead and have another one, grab myself a little bit of a thumbnail, and let's go ahead and see if what I was saying is actually accurate or not. So let's go ahead and get my lighter out of my pocket, and let's go ahead and get back to smoking. Well, hopefully one of those will do as a thumbnail for the video. We will find out. The smoke started coming towards my eyes, and I was like, all right, let's just call it there. I don't want to get any smoke in my eyes during this video today. That's not a pleasant experience, I will acknowledge. But yeah, overall, I mean, like, the flavor and quality of these is good, but it's a Camel Yellow. I'll acknowledge it is a Camel Yellow. There's nothing particularly complex going on. It's a little bit different than Camel Yellows I've tried before, and that's something I do like, but it's not that different. It's not super unique for the Brazilian market. This is very much an international blend that Japan Tobacco uses everywhere for their packs of Camel Yellows, and it's a good blend. I personally enjoy Camel Yellows. They're not my favorites, but I enjoy them. But it's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy different, and it's nothing crazy insane by any means. But they are solid. They are solid. Especially for the price, because I think this pack cost me a little bit under $2 USD. Around about like 980 Brazilian reals, I think. So for that price, as an American, I'm like, these are crazy good. I want to acknowledge, kind of thing. But I'll admit, I actually prefer the Rothmans Reds over these. I do. I like these about the same as I like the Marlboro Reds from Brazil, though. They're just different. But I like the Rothmans Reds over these, I'll acknowledge. Yeah, I gotta admit though, definitely with this second cigarette, I can say for sure, these in my opinion at least, these are better than, some of the other Camel Yellows I've tried from elsewhere around the world, for sure. Some of the Camel Yellows I've tried, I've never had a legitimately bad Camel Yellow, but I have had some with, like, meh quality. Just a little bit of an additive chemical flavor in there kind of thing. I'm not getting any of that from this. This is a good quality tobacco product compared to what I've tried before. So this is probably the best quality Camel Yellow I've ever had, I'll acknowledge. And that has very much been my experience with Brazilian tobacco products as a whole. I found them to be a very good quality. So, of course, if this one didn't bump up in quality, then it wouldn't sell very well in Brazil now, would it? They've got to stay right on with their competitors. If they have bad quality compared to competitors that have good quality and they're the same price, it's pretty easy to figure out what's actually going to sell. But yeah, flavor-wise, I would say the flavor is very much that of a... Yeah, I would say the flavor is that of a more savory flavor than not. There's definitely some sweetness in there, definitely some sourness in there, but it's a savory, sweet, and sour flavor. A little bit of bitterness in there as well. With overall undertones of, I would have to say, up front and center, I would have to say the most prominent flavor is that of a sort of nutty, milky, sort of milk chocolate flavor. And then there's an undertone of a nutty, dark chocolate with a little bit of bitterness going on. And that's very much the flavor that's going on, in my personal opinion. Yeah, I would have to say a nutty, creamy, slightly sweet milk chocolate flavor with a still very pronounced undertone of slightly bitter, nutty, dark chocolate. Anything else going on? Maybe a little bit of brown sugar. Maybe a little bit. It's not noticeable enough to really say that that's in there, in my opinion. Maybe there's a little bit, but I think it might just be my imagination, honestly. I get that flavor from a lot of cigarettes, so it's something that I start to look for, and sometimes I trick my brain into thinking it's actually there. Yeah, well, I think that's what there was to my second Brazilian Camel Yellow cigarette. Overall, impressions of it. What was the flavor like? Let's go and cover that actually first before I start covering my final thoughts. Flavor of the Camel Yellows from Brazil was similar, but slightly different from what I've tried from other Camel Yellows around the world previously. Overall, a good product, in my opinion. I think the Camel Yellows from Brazil are solid. And I'd totally buy another pack again in the future. They're nothing crazy. They're nothing insane. They're nothing that makes me go, wow. But they get the job done. They taste solid enough to smoke on a regular basis and not hate what you're smoking. And they're solid enough to smoke on a regular basis and, in fact, enjoy what you're smoking, in my personal opinion. But they're nothing that makes me go, wow. I will acknowledge. Overall, the flavor... Yeah, I would have to say the flavor was what I described, but without that, like, sort of brown sugar flavor. I really don't think there is any in there. If there is any in there, it's so mild that you really can't notice it. The flavor I really do think I got to the most degree, and I am going to change up kind of how the flavor is oriented with intensity, because I think, honestly, that dark chocolate is a little bit more rich and intense than I really thought it was before. So I would have to say the flavor itself, just overall, I'm getting that of a savory, sweet, sour, well, I would say savory, sweet, slightly bitter, dry tobacco flavor with definitely some added sort of flavorings going on kind of thing. And the actual nuances of the flavor are very much that of a burley tobacco with, I would have to say, up front and center, a nutty, slightly bitter, yet slightly sweet, dark chocolate with an undertone of a nutty, slightly milky, creamy milk chocolate, and all of that is a little bit dry kind of thing. And that's very much what the flavor of the Camel Yellows from Brazil is like. And that's kind of my take. I will acknowledge. If y'all have a different take, let me know what it is in the comments below. But, overall, how are the Camel Yellows from Brazil when compared to other Camel Yellows I've tried previously? They're slightly different. The flavor overall definitely goes along the same lines of what I've tried before. I would have to say the main difference between the Brazilian Camel Yellows and other ones I've tried before is that I do think these ones are a slight bit more chocolatey. But when I say a slight, it's not much. It really is just a little bit more chocolatey, but enough where you can notice it, I will acknowledge. In my opinion, Camel Yellows that I've tried from elsewhere are a little bit less chocolatey, maybe just a little bit less chocolatey, honestly. A little bit less chocolatey, a little bit less nutty, just a little bit less pronounced in that flavor overall. But in my opinion, these Camel Yellows, the ones from Brazil, have a little bit more of a pronounced chocolate nutty flavor in my personal opinion. And that is something I've noticed from a few of the cigarettes I've tried here so far. I do think in Brazil that pronounced chocolate flavor is just that, a little bit more pronounced in cigarettes overall, and that's something that I'm seeing as well with the Camel Yellows. So I can definitely say without a doubt, while these are a little bit different, just a slight little bit different from Camel Yellows from elsewhere around the world, if you come to Brazil and you buy a pack of Camel Yellows, are you still going to get a similar experience to what you've had in your home country with these? More than likely, absolutely yes. These are going to be a little bit different, slightly different, just a little bit slightly different from maybe what you've had in your home country when it comes to Camel Yellows, but it's going to be, generally speaking, pretty similar to what you've had before. Just slightly different, a little bit more of a pronounced chocolate flavor in my personal opinion, and that's very much what the Camel Yellows are like. One thing I will say though, one big difference, and the biggest difference isn't even really in flavor, it's in quality. In my opinion, the flavor quality of these is absolutely better than some of the other Camel Yellows I've had from elsewhere around the world, for sure, no question in my mind kind of thing. The quality flavor-wise of these, I'm getting no chemical flavor, a little bit of a sort of added flavoring flavor, but it's not bad. It's pretty nice actually, but no sort of icky chemical flavor or icky additive flavor or anything like that kind of thing. A little bit of a paper flavor kind of in the back of my throat, but really not much. Overall, very good quality cigarettes, and in my opinion, better quality than some other Camel Yellows I've tried from elsewhere around the world, and that is something that I do appreciate seeing, I will acknowledge. Overall, do I like these Camel Yellows right here? Well, I'd have to say these are probably my favorite Camel Yellows I've tried from around the world so far, so I certainly have no complaints about them, that is for sure, besides the fact that it's just kind of more of the same from what I've tried previously. Slightly different, don't get me wrong, but more of the same to some degree. But yeah, the Camel Yellows from Brazil, solid smokes, nothing insane, nothing crazy, nothing that makes me go wow, but solid smokes that I will enjoy smoking the rest of the pack of nonetheless, and I do think I would buy another pack of them again in the future if I was visiting Brazil again and I just arrived and I didn't want to buy a new pack of cigarettes that I needed to review or something like that kind of thing. If I wanted to show up and buy a pack of cigarettes that I had tried before, I do think the Camel Yellows might be one that I'd go for, because in all likelihood, these ain't going anywhere. They're Camel Yellows. They're standard, they're iconic, they're Camel Yellows kind of thing, so they ain't going nowhere. And yeah, I'd buy another pack again in the future, but they're nothing crazy, and yeah, they're Camel Yellows kind of thing. And overall, I think they deserve a very solid... Oh man. I am noticing just a little bit of something on my tongue, though, that kind of tastes not meh. Okay, there is a little bit of something on my tongue, kind of like a little bit of an icky aftertaste. I mean, it's not like icky, it's just kind of like, what's going on with that? There is a little bit of an aftertaste from these. I am just now noticing. Due to that, I will be giving these a 6.7 out of 10. Like, actually, I'm giving these a 6.7 out of 10. I think that's deserving. I was about to give them a 7 out of 10, but actually, I think like a 6.5 to 6.7 is actually about right for these. So, yeah, I'm going to give these a 6.7 out of 10. In regards to where that lines up against the other Camel, or not Camel. I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. in regards to where that lines up against the other big tobacco produced cigarettes I've tried from Brazil so far, to say all that correctly, I would have to say these are probably my least favorite. I would have to say my favorites are probably the Rothman Reds, then after that the Marlboro Reds, and then after that probably the Camel Yellows right here. So yeah, 6.5 to 6.7 out of 10 for the Camel Yellows from Brazil. I certainly will enjoy smoking the rest of this pack though, and I think that's just about all I had to say for this video today. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video today. If you guys have, of course, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to check out my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, available now on Amazon for $14.99. Highly recommend, of course. Appreciate all y'all watching today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of Camel Yellows from Brazil, if you guys have tried them previously. And, of course, make sure to stay safe and peace, and have a great rest of y'all's day. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, stay safe and peace, and have a great one.